that's the moment that the financial anxiety starts to disappear.
What does this debt include? Because some might speak of good debt and bad debt, but debt is debt.
Then we have two options. We either again lying awake 2 a.m. in our bed thinking, how in the world, where am I going to get this money? Or
It causes a weight on your shoulders and it will only be lifted once.
what do we do with the financial margin in our life? When we spend less than we earn, what is the plan? What is the practicality? How do we use this to move ourselves closer to financial freedom and to financial stability? Well, if that is the question you've got, then this is most definitely the episode for you. Hi, my name is Ruan. This is the Understanding Money podcast, and my co-host Martin, who you'll see shortly once he shares his wisdom, is with us today, and we are excited to explain to you how can we use that margin to move you forward. Well, in the previous episode, we explained a lot about how do we get that margin. More income, less expenses. But now that we've unpacked that, we obviously progress towards, okay, we've got the margin. What do we do now? And the fact of the matter is that margin is the tool that builds financial freedom. All the other things are just nice. Investing, paying off debt, buying property. It's just discipline and applied wisdom. None of that would be possible without margin, because without margin, you won't actually have the finance to invest, to pay debt, or to do any of these things. So now, one could be forgiven for thinking that the next logical step is just to go berserk, take your coin, throw it at the market, buy stocks, just go wild. That is not at all the case. Investments, and more specifically, wealth, because that's what we're after, is generational wealth, to leave an inheritance for your children's children. It's not created by aggression, but by stability. So we live in a day and age where the socials, YouTube, all these things has got so much noise, so much differing opinions, investment strategies, everyone telling you to get into the market. All good. Not saying the market is bad, but we advocate for a slower, more intentional pace and strategic viewpoint. Getting into the market is not necessarily the next step. Why is that the case? Because a massive part of wealth creation and sustainability is risk mitigation. And the reason why some people don't worry about money is because of the stability of their finances, the way they have built that structure. Not because they have some elite David Goggins mentality, which makes them invincible or immune to financial stress or anxiety as a whole. Martin, tell us a bit about how one can do this.
Yes, everyone needs a plan to follow. Everyone needs steps to follow. And there are steps to follow when it comes to financial stability. And everyone might have their own plan and psychology and philosophy about money, and people might promote certain steps over the other. But like Ruan said, we really do advocate for more a slower, intentional pace and a strategy. We aren't about get rich quick. It's about staying wealthy over generations, building wealth over generations, changing family trees, the way money is used and thought about, and ultimately our wealth is created, not just for you, but for the benefit of your family and for your community, and for much further reaching. We advocate something different than what a lot of the noise on socials might say. That's why we say getting into the market isn't necessarily the next step. So here's some steps that you can follow, some things that you can consider, things to get in place on how to use your financial margin, how to use that surplus, that funds that ultimately will help building this wealth. So we definitely want you to start the emergency fund. The concept with the emergency fund is, like Ruan said, it's a risk mitigation. It's the rainy day. It will happen. The rain will come. The aircon will break. The tire puncture will happen. These things, unfortunately, we live in a broken world. These things will occur. There will be an emergency, a medical bill you won't be able to pay. And for people, especially those who are paying off debt, if you don't have a bit of cash just to fall back on when that emergency happens or when something happens, you're going into more debt, and we don't really want you to do that. So start an emergency fund, getting a few thousand in the bank, just storing it in a savings account for if something happens while you are attacking your debt. That's in the case where you have debt. So after you start the emergency fund, we pay off our debt aggressively. We get out of it. The borrower is slave to the lender. That is what the Bible says. It's a timeless principle about money. So we're going to pay off all our debt except our house. Why except the house? Because in most cases, if you get in trouble, the sale of your house will be able to pay the rest of the bond payment that is necessary. We aren't going to get into the technicalities now. We'll do that in a future episode. But the idea is after the start emergency fund is in place, we're going to attack our debt. And what does this debt include? Because some might speak of good debt and bad debt, but debt is debt. The borrower is slave to the lender. It causes a weight on your shoulders, and it will only be lifted once the debt is paid off. A debt limits your opportunities, it limits your options, it keeps you restrained. Doesn't matter what kind of debt and from who the debt is, it's the same. So what does it include? Yes, it is your car, it is your overdraft, your credit card, your personal loan, your Woolies and Truworths accounts. It includes all of that. Buy now, pay later, it includes all of that. Get out of your debt. It is keeping you restrained. It is keeping you from using your income to truly build wealth, to have options, to have breathing room in your life. And often that is the biggest reason for financial stress in people's lives. Now, why is a car, for instance, bad debt? I thought it's an asset. Well, the math is simple. If you buy a car, it decreases in value, whereas your loan that you have on the car has interest included. And for the majority of the time that you pay off your car, you are what one would refer to as underwater. The value of your car is less than the balance outstanding on your loan. So if you get in trouble, you need to sell the car. Most cases, you'll still have a portion of debt that you need to pay back to the financier. Whereas if a house, that is not the case. A house often, mostly, increases or stays the same, but increases in value, whereas the balance outstanding on your loan gets less. Now, we will go into depth on this in future episodes so that you understand the intricacies. But the point is, for your car, for your overdraft, your personal loan, your credit card, food or clothing accounts, whatever it may be, we are going to attack it. And we're going to attack it with what is called the debt snowball method. There's two methods in attacking debt. Well, there's actually three. Three is just attacking it. The one is the debt avalanche, where it's the highest interest payment first. But the other one that we prefer is the debt snowball. And the idea here is to take your smallest debt and to attack that first. To put all of your surplus money into it, attacking that first, getting it paid off, adding that to the next second smallest debt. The idea here is to get the momentum going, to get the quick wins. Emotionally, when paying off debt, it's not fun. And you need to be able to get that wins, that emotional boost, so to say, to just motivate yourself and know that you can do this. I can get out of debt. So paying off your smallest account first, then hitting your overdraft, then hitting your car, then hitting that bigger personal, whatever it may be. And these things, ultimately, the snowball gets bigger as it rolls down the hill, because when you paid off the smallest debt, those payments get added on to the next one and added on to the next one. And then in a shorter time period than you might have calculated at first, you might be done because you have so much momentum and motivation to just get out of debt and get out of trouble. That's what we go for. That's what we encourage. That's what we practiced. It's not like we're just going off of theory. That is what we practiced in our lives. Ruan having to get out, well, both of us actually having to get out of car debt. And there's more to it, and we'll share more in the future. But the point is, this is lived experience, not head knowledge. And what's next, Ruan? What are we attacking next?
Next, we attacking the emergency fund. But before I get there, your comment just had me reminiscing a bit when you're like about the car debt. I was like immediately thinking, sure, hard gewerkt, min gespend. That's just the way to go. It's like we worked really hard. We didn't spend a lot. I'm definitely spending a lot more now than I used to spend then. And it's just cool to see that it's possible. And just want to encourage any listener that's got car debt, it's not the end of the world. You can pay that off. You will not be the first, and you shall not be the last. The only option is if you will be part of the people that have paid off their car. It is most definitely possible, and we have done that, and you can do that as well. Moving on, we've got the Lekker Groot emergency fund. This is where we take Martin's start emergency fund and we blow him up, and we just make that stability grow and go everywhere. How do we do that? We're looking at about 3 to 6 months expenses, not income, expenses. Meaning, if something's to happen, how do I keep my household running? I need to keep the lights on. I need to keep the kids fed. We need to keep gas in the car. How do we do that? And why do we need that? Again, to Martin's point, this is so true. We live in a fallen world. Emergencies is gonna happen. And if you haven't realized that yet, you'll realize that very soon. It's not me being all doom and gloom. It's just the way things happen. Things break. Maintenance is a thing. Durability is a thing. And inevitably, when they break, it's gonna cost money. And then we have two options. We either, again, lying awake 2 a.m. in our bed thinking, how in the world, where am I gonna get this money? Or when you've applied prudence to take that extra money, that savings, that margin, and to put it into the emergency fund, as soon as the tire goes or the dishwasher breaks or whatever, you just take the money out and you fix the problem. And I would never forget the first time I did this, and I shared on an earlier episode recently when I was seeing a client and I got a flat tire and needed to replace it. The thought about how I'm going to pay for this didn't even cross my mind because I've built in the behavior to put away money every month. So it was instinctive. That's coming out of the emergency fund. And there was just zero financial anxiety. So the reason we advocate for this emergency fund and getting it to 3 to 6 month expenses on what you would feel comfortable is because the moment you have that and you have that amount which you set out to be like, awesome, this is here, I can see it on my banking app, it's just chilling there. If an emergency happens, I can just take out the money. That's the moment that the financial anxiety starts to disappear. And what happens is margin now becomes security. And security creates confidence. As we said, we want to move you from a place of not having confidence to having confidence, being anxious to having peace. And this is a massive part of this. So once that is full, because we wait until it is full, then we've got some different things that we can start looking at. We could look at investments. To give you a bit of a quick overview in the South African context, just two vehicles that would not be a bad place to start is first and foremost your tax-free saver. Why is this important? Because in South Africa we pay capital gains tax, we've got dividend tax, we've got interest rate tax. All these become irrelevant within the tax-free saver. You pay zero taxes, hence why it's so amazing, because everything you save, you don't have to make. There are some limits though. You can only put in 46,000 Rand per financial year and 500,000 in your lifetime. Now that 500,000 is capital, it's not growth. So the growth can become exponential and then you can enjoy that tax-free in the future. More of this to come in future episodes. Another one we've got is a retirement annuity. Saving for retirement, putting money away, we don't want to work forever. And just some quick tips on what is the pros of this product is that you can deduct your marginal tax rate up to the lower of 27.5% of your yearly income or 430,000 Rand. You don't have to reach that, you can do less, you just won't enjoy a tax benefit should you go over those parameters. Similarly, the growth within the vehicle is tax-free and then you only pay tax when you withdraw those funds at retirement, in which case SARS would see that as income. But again, you've had this whole growth period where there was no tax. And all of these options we'll explore and get down into a bit more of the nitty-gritty, but for now, that's all that we want to cover. And then something else that we want to chat about, Martin, to talk about the Starter Emergency Fund, paying off all debt except the house, getting the big emergency fund. At some point in time, we definitely want to pay off the house. This is massive. The debtor is slave to the lender. Until that's paid off, you do not own your house. You are merely living in it. The bank owns your house. It is their house and you are simply renting from them. We've got some nice paperwork saying it's yours. I mean, I bought my own house, very much owned by the bank until I paid that off. So I'm putting myself in that boat as well. And this is not just mathematical. Risk is not mathematical. It's emotional. It is why we do things with money. We know we shouldn't, but we just can't because it's an emotional endeavor. And the reason why we advocate for this is because when the house is paid off, your required monthly income, the required amount of money to run your household, to pay your monthly expenses, drops drastically. Your financial break-even shrinks, your life becomes cheaper, and when the bond is gone, your lifestyle cost, it collapses. And now you're truly free. And that's amazing. Just imagine this is you. I mean, congrats, you're now debt free. Close your eyes, take a moment and reflect. And just imagine you've got so much more money than you've got months remaining. There's no debt payments. You get paid whether you work for yourself or you get an income. There's no bond going off. There's no car going off, no credit card, no personal loan, no overdraft. Just the money's just there. And you can now just decide what to do with it. And that's what we advocate for you to be truly free, to have that margin, and then to go into overdrive and just start building wealth like crazy. But not only that, now that we've reached the promised land, Martin, what does one do with your money when it's not going towards debt?
Yes, good question. Now, when these previous steps are in place and there's that foundation laid of security and risk mitigation, like the emergency fund is not a sexy step. People don't like this because they just want to get into the market, get investing, and they feel like they are behind. But emergencies do happen, and ultimately it is like insurance. That is what it is. It is insurance. And for me personally, like last year, we had a year where a lot of unforeseen medical expenses had to occur, and honestly, there would not have been peace of mind for especially my wife, who had to go for these procedures and so on, for us to be able to say, you know what, this needs to be done, this needs to be paid, we can go for it, it's all good. But if that money was stuck in investments, it would have caused losses ultimately when it had to be withdrawn. There's time delays, and it just caused a bit of confusion and anxiety around it. So even though it might seem slow, even though we might need to rebuild that fund a bit now, because that is in place, there's that peace of mind. And we know the day that it gets to a point where we're happy with it, it's about somewhere between 3 to 6 months of expenses, and we're satisfied with that, we can continue into investing, we can continue into pursuing wealth building and bigger things like buying a house one day. Now, what do we do now in the case where your emergency fund's in place, your debt's paid off, you're maybe busy paying your house off quicker, or your house is now paid off? What else do we do? Because there's a few things we can do with our money. We can save and invest it, like we've spoken about now. We can enjoy it, or one of the biggest ways to actually enjoy it is to give it away. So investing, we're going to continue with our investing. Maybe you and your wife are looking into buying investment property. That's something you can do. We're going to maybe invest a bit more if that's something you want to do, put away, say for a longer term goal. And we can spend. We can have a bit of breathing room now to be able to spend, to go on that holiday after you've worked really hard to pay off your debt and you have the margin in place. Or you really wanted to buy that car. We're not going to advocate for you to buy the car in finance. We're going to want you to buy the car in cash. Definitely something worthwhile to do that rather than going into debt on a depreciating asset. But more on that later. If you want that Porsche, great. But if that Porsche is 50% of your net worth or more than your yearly income, maybe that's not a great idea. But something that fits within your budget, when you look at your whole financial picture, it's not the bulk of it. It doesn't take a obscene amount of percentage space within your net worth, then maybe that's a good option. But the point is, we can start enjoying our money a bit more. We can budget a bit more vacations throughout the year, or maybe to go out to restaurants if that's what you want to do, or maybe there's a few gadgets you wanted to buy. All good. We can make space for that now. Another thing that's a really good idea to put into place is saving for your kids' education. Saving for your kids' university especially. We know, because we've been through university and Ruan is still studying his master's now, it is really expensive to study. And it is beneficial to study because ultimately you are building your income engine. Our income is our biggest wealth building tool. And to build our income, often it needs further study, being able to go into that master's or that MBA you want to do. Now, in not all cases this will be relevant, but maybe for your field that is relevant and it's something you want to do and something that's on your heart. Definitely not a good idea to go into study debt because that is just going to kill you. But now you can save towards your kids' future to set them up for a win one day. My parents were able to pay cash for my studies because for years they were saving and diligent with it. And at the end of my university, when they told me that I don't have any debt to pay for my studies, I broke down in tears because it's one of the greatest gifts they were able to give me. Now, this is not everyone's story, and maybe you don't come from that background at all. But this is why we're here to tell you there is hope to do that. This is possible. We have seen it. We've seen it from others. We've heard about it. This is possible. It may take time and a big way of doing life, but your family tree can be changed. It can be different for you. How can you save for your kids' education? Maybe you put money into their tax-free savers. Invest it in something like a S&P 500 or even just a money market fund. Keep it safe, keep it there, and it builds to a point where you have a considerable amount of money to use on their education. Or you can give it. For us, for myself and Ruan, we have a conviction to be generous because this is in line with our faith. This is in line with how Jesus lived and how we want to live ultimately, and that how you see generosity completely depends on you. But one of the most fun things you can do with money is to give it away, to bless someone in need, to see a single mom with a kid and be like, you know what, I'll take your groceries for the month or so on. These are things that you can do ultimately one day when you have this margin, when you've built the wealth, when you've been diligent. Like Dave Ramsey says, live like no one else so that you can later on live and give like no one else. And this is what it leads to. You can enjoy your money, but honestly assess where you're at. Get a vision for your future. Where do you want to end up? How do you want it to look like? Practice delayed gratification if that's necessary now to get that thing later, instead of jumping into debt because you want it now and getting yourself into trouble for later. Otherwise, enjoy all you have now if you really want it, but just know that there's a squandering and a detrimental effect to your financial future. But these things that I mentioned, this is possible. Even though Ruan and I haven't reached it yet, we've heard the stories, we've seen the testimonies, and it is possible.
Yo, Martin, you've said that so well. That's amazing. But where does that leave you as a listener? I think as a listener, you now have a decision to make. Change your life or waste your margin. So you need to assess. We've said a lot of things. There will no doubt have been certain steps that have jumped out at you. And think, start at the beginning. Sit with your balance sheet, sit with your budget, start at the beginning and ask yourself, where are you in these steps? What is the logical, the prudent next step that can pursue to, as I mentioned, enlarge your financial stability, to make your financial house unshakable, to plan for the future? And what is the best way to use your margin right now? Where's gaps? And as we always mention, this is educational. Find a professional, have a conversation, have a sit down, ask them hard questions. Say, this is what I got, this is where I want to go. How do we make that happen? And then with these steps, we believe you'll be one step closer, maybe to financial freedom.